creating cultural awareness and understanding. This is Culture Clique. Culture Clique is written and produced by KQAL FM on the campus of Winona State University.
Winter in Minnesota. It's a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Some love it, some hate it, but we all get through it somehow. Some people like to hunker down and cozy up to a fire, and some like to get outside and play in the cold. We've all heard of Minnesota Nice. Well, get ready for Minnesota and Ice, a special Culture Clique series where we'll take a look at the way Minnesotans, and Winonans in particular, get out and enjoy our frozen waters. Today, we talk ice fishing with two members of the Winona State University Fishing Club, Cale Rinn and Club President Colton Haney. We talk about what you really need to get into ice fishing, safety on the ice, and how the conditions and fishing have been this year. I'm Bill Stoneberg. Stick around as we talk Minnesota and ice with Cale Rinn and Colton Haney from the Winona State University Fishing Club on Culture Clique. I'm here with Colton Haney and Cale Rinn. Colton is the president of the Winona State University Fishing Club, and they are here to talk to us about ice fishing today. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty well.
I'm doing well.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming in. We were talking a little bit briefly before, where you guys are from. Cale, you said you're from Winona here, right?
Yep, I've lived here my whole life.
And Colton in Wisconsin, up by Hudson. I can't remember the town.
I'm from Baldwin, Wisconsin. It's just a little town.
Baldwin.
Up by Hudson.
Okay,
there, so.
Cool. A lot of ice fishing up there?
Yeah, I've ice fished my whole life. My first time I went out was when I was like 3 years old, and my dad wasn't expecting me to stay out there for a long time, but we ended up staying out there for like 6 or 8 hours, and as soon as my dad's like, all right, time to go home, I just would cry, and ever since then I've had the fishing fever.
Nice. So I'm assuming you guys fish all year round too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how long have you guys been part of the Winona State University Fishing Club?
Well, I have been part of it since my freshman year, and I'm a junior now, so 3 years. And
nice.
Yeah, and
I'm a senior, and I've been in it for 4 years.
Okay. All right, let's get down to brass tacks here. How has the fishing been this year?
I have been out since before Thanksgiving.
Oh, really?
We had a really early freeze up. I basically jumped out of the boat November 26th, and I was on ice just a few days after that.
Oh, wow.
The early season was pure madness. Every time I was out, the fishing was really, really good.
Nice.
Panfish, crappie, bluegill, perch, really good year. The river's been showing what it's really made of.
Cool.
After Christmas, we got the cold snap, and you see the numbers of people really drop off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the fishing's really slowed down. Fish... Okay. They're similar to us in the winter. When it's that cold, you don't want to be outside moving around.
Right.
Neither do the fish.
Okay.
So it's been pretty slow. I expect it with this warm-up to get really good here coming up. Yep.
Okay. So it's not just that it's cold and people don't want to be out there, but the fishing dropped off too.
It did, yep.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. So have you been fishing on the lakes here in Winona, or where do you go?
I fish pretty much everything in the area. I fish both the big lake, small lake, and I fish the river a lot.
Okay.
The lakes, typically I target bluegill, crappie, and the river is really good for basically anything you want. You wake up in the morning and you're like, I think I want to go catch a walleye. So you can go below a dam and you can catch a walleye.
Right.
Perch fishing's been phenomenal the last few years. The DNR said our perch numbers are higher than they've ever been.
Oh, sweet.
And perch, if you've eaten a perch, they're just as good as a walleye. People love them. People hear the word perch, and they just run to that fishing hole.
Right.
Yeah.
What size? I'm curious. I got into a conversation the other day about this. What size perch are you catching?
Typically around here, a massive perch is anything over 13 and a half inches.
Right.
You get a good quality mix, I'd say, in that 10 to 12 range. If you're in a really nice low pressured area, if not a lot of people are hitting it, you can pretty easily find a lot of fish in that 10 to 12 inch class.
Okay, nice. That is good to know.
And to compare that to like anywhere else in the world, in the nation, you usually don't find that quality perch many places.
Wow.
The perch on the river here are actually pretty big, and it's kind of still a secret spot. I mean, obviously perch are becoming more and more well known here for their size, but Over, I don't know, at a lake you usually only catch like anywhere from 5 to 7 inches.
Okay.
And that'll be considered a good perch.
Oh, wow. So the river does really well for that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's real good to know. How about like people who like myself, like I was saying before we started, I'm not big into ice fishing. Just recently started thinking about it, picking up some gear and stuff. What would you recommend someone do if they're like, yeah, I want to try ice fishing, but they have no idea what to do? Do they need a tent with a heater and all this stuff, or how does it work?
You don't necessarily need a ice shack and a heater and all that, everything. All you really need is an auger, a bucket, and a rod and some bait. That's about it.
Okay.
It depends on how cold you get, obviously, because the shack, if you want to fish out in windy weather or if it's snowing or something, the shack really helps with the heater, keep you warm.
Right.
But also, on the flip side of that, I don't usually fish with an ice shack because I can move around easier and like drill multiple holes. Mm-hmm. And so if you're just starting out, I would recommend getting just a cheap ice hand drill auger. I mean, they're pretty cheap. They're like $60, $70, somewhere around there.
And I've seen Facebook Marketplace where they're super cheap.
Yeah, you can get actually good fishing gear on Facebook Marketplace for really cheap. And I do a lot of shopping on there as well. Yeah. But then just if you want to go for panfish only, then I would highly recommend getting an ultralight rod. But if you want to go for either panfish or walleye or northern, then the best type of ice fishing rod to get is a medium action spinning rod.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. I want to go back to the ice shack and the heaters. So, like, how do most of the heaters I've seen are propane heaters, and then I've seen like warnings like don't put it in your ice shack without ventilation, stuff like that. Like, how do you go about doing that?
So most ice shacks will have a little vent up towards the top of the shack, or two of them, and you just open those little flaps, and then you'll be fine.
So you have the airflow, so oxygen keeps coming.
So I've never had a personal problem with having a heater inside a shack.
Okay.
As long as you just keep your vents, like I usually go halfway if it's pretty windy out, or just full if it's decent out. So,
okay. Nice. So that seems pretty easy. I see all these warnings and they're trying to scare the heck out of you. It seems like, oh, don't put that in your shack. But, it sounds like everyone does it. So it's like, well, how do you do that? Yeah. So nice. Very nice. And you talked about the rods a little bit, and just for people out there that might not know, so the ice fishing rods are quite different than something you'd use in the summertime, right?
Yes.
Can you kind of maybe tell people about that?
Go into that,
yeah. Typically, if I'm fishing in an ice shack, I would like to have a smaller rod because you're in a smaller confined space.
Right.
So typically 18 to 24 inches is the range I like to select.
Yeah.
You just want to be close to your hole.
Yeah.
You're going to get a fish up to the hole, and sometimes they're going to pop off, and you're going to want to reach down and scoop them out with your hand or something.
Right.
If I'm on the move, if I'm not in a shack, it's a nice day like today, and I'm moving around a lot, I'll usually opt for a rod 27 to 32 inches, just because I'm oftentimes standing rather than sitting on a bucket.
Right.
And you want that rod tip, again, right down next to the hole, so that 4 or 5 inches can be a big deal.
Okay.
It helps. So,
I never thought about that. If you're standing, yeah.
And going off of that, I actually have a way longer rod for ice fishing.
Really?
It's called a lawn rod for a reason, and it's like 5.5 feet.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really wimpy action rod. It's kind of like a trout fly fishing rod, I think. And so it has a really weak action, and as soon as you set the hook, it bends over, and you keep the fish on, and that way you can just you don't really fish it in deeper than 10 feet.
Okay.
Because you usually just you don't even reel your line up. You pick your rod up because you have that long rod. You can just pick your line out of the hole, drop it in another hole, and then you can just stay standing. So that's another option out there.
Oh, that is nice. Ice fishing is sounding better and better the more I hear. Because it sounded, at first it was like, oh, wow, you got to get all this gear, and I'm not a big fan of the cold, but it sounds like it doesn't really matter, and, you could be comfortable standing, sitting, whatever you want to do.
I think that two really important things, especially in today's ice fishing industry, to have are warm clothing. Right. There's no excuse not to have warm clothing.
Yeah.
There's some company that makes it very affordable out there. And if you decide that you really enjoy ice fishing, investing in some sort of sonar or flasher is probably the most important thing you can do.
Okay.
You're going to save so much time. you're going to put that flasher in the hole, and it's going to give you a reading between the ice you're standing on and the bottom.
Okay.
And it's going to show marks, and those marks are going to be fish. And you drop it in a hole. Sometimes, if you don't have it and you think you're around fish, you can sit out there for 3 hours and not get a bite.
Right.
So being able to drill holes and check to see if you're actually around fish is so important today.
Right.
It's hard to see people not fishing with a flasher.
Right.
And this winter, because of the pandemic, I've seen more people than ever ice fishing. So our fish are getting more pressured than ever. You're taking more fish out of our waters, which I am totally for. You know, I'm glad to see and teach people how to ice fish. But you also see a lot of people struggling because these fish, after seeing a bait for the last 3 months, they don't want to bite. You got to find some fish that are fresh, haven't seen as much, and those flashers, sonars are really going to help you.
Okay. Oh, that's good information to know for sure. So you're talking about the, and that'll tell you what depth of fish you're at there too. Then you know if you're in deeper water. So you're not just sitting above them.
They do have cameras as well, with a cord.
Okay.
I don't like those personally because, like he said, I like moving around.
Right.
And I don't want to have to drop 20 feet of cord down a hole to see if I'm around fish.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit in a spot all day, it's nice to drill a hole and then drill one like 2 feet next to you and then drop that camera down and get your bait on the screen.
Right on there.
And then you notice how these fish are reacting to your bait. Yeah. If they'll come up, look at it, swim away, you might want to change your color. You might want to change the action of your bait. You just react. You adapt with the fish, and that's kind of the nice thing about having a camera. But you just can't remain as mobile.
Okay.
So
right. Interesting. How much do they run?
I actually have an AquaView. See, sorry. I have the opposite opinion, Cale. I think the cameras actually really help.
Okay.
I've used one for 5 years now, except you can only really use it in clear water. So out here on the Mississippi, it's not much of a help because the water's so dirty.
Yep.
But out on like Lake Winona or Lake LeCaine, they'll be helpful there. And so I usually drill a hole, drop my camera down. If I don't see a fish or a couple of fish, then I won't fish that hole. And then I'll go drill another hole 20 feet, 30 feet away, drop another one, drop the camera again, keep looking for structure or fish. And then, so on the Vexilar or like the flasher, it's nice to move faster, but it's harder to tell what kind of structure you're fishing. So like if you're fishing a rock or a tree or anything, you might be fishing weed, but it just looks like you have fish down there. Whereas the camera, you can actually see if those are fish. Yeah. So that's the part that I like about it better. Okay. Usually an AquaView, which is the brand I have, will run anywhere from $150 to $700 depending on the size and what one you get. So
you can get into it for a decent price.
Yeah, it's not. I have the 150 one, and it works just fine for me. So yeah.
Cool.
The flasher versions, which I have, are just like the readings of the dots on the chart. Those usually run anywhere. You can get them end of the season around 210, 220, older models.
Nice.
Any fishing technology has exploded in recent years, open water and ice fishing. So if you really got the money, they come out with ones where they have a big screened camera and the flasher,
nice.
And those are the bundles that are going to cost $1,200, $1,400.
Right.
But I wouldn't obviously recommend that to somebody just getting into it. Right. But there's options.
Yeah. Well, cool. Room to grow, right? More toys.
Plenty of room to grow.
More toys to look for. How about the ice itself? Like, how much ice do you need to get out there on it?
Well, Cale's very adventurous, so I'll let him start.
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend to anybody to go out on anything less than 3 inches.
Okay.
3 to 4 inches is absolutely safe, walkable ice.
Okay.
Early in the year, it's vital that you have a pair of ice picks. You can build those. I've built them.
Okay.
It's just a wooden handle, and I drive a screw through them.
Oh,
tie them on a rope.
Yeah.
And I hate to admit it, but I've had to use them once.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but I wouldn't, like I said, recommend anything less than 3 inches.
Right.
If I'm fishing really shallow water, if I know I'm in 2 feet of water, I'll go out on like 2 inches of ice.
Right.
Because I know I'm going to break through. If I break through, I'm only going to go to my waist. you can typically travel 4-wheeler, snowmobile on 6 or so inches of ice.
Okay.
And you're going to see, your pickup trucks, cars, vehicles out on the big lake, small lake, when there's, 14 plus inches of ice.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Nice. Wow. That's where the gas-powered auger comes in? Is that right?
Gas or electric.
Okay.
People are getting away from gas because there's a lot of issues with them. When it's cold, they get bucky.
Yeah.
You get fuel or any sort of liquid on your fingers. And the fish are so picky in the winter with those small baits. If you get that on there, you're not going to get sniffed.
You're done.
So electric has really taken over the game.
Okay.
Yeah, a big part of the electric augers is that you don't have to start it up like a gas-powered auger where you have to crank the string.
Right, yeah.
That takes a lot of work, and sometimes in the cold you can't get it to start, whereas electric, you have your drill with the I use a K-drill. That's just a drill attachment auger.
Right.
And so you just pop your battery into your drill and then just drill. And it's pretty easy, and it's a lot quieter, too.
Tell them about the weight difference, too.
Oh, the weight difference is huge.
Yeah,
so the K-drill is a fully composite drill, like auger, and with just a little bit of steel blades on the bottom.
Wow.
And
so the whole thing is super
the
light.
whole thing is completely composite, and it's very durable. I haven't had one snap or anything, and K-drill offers free sharpening for their blades too, so
Nice.
I usually try to send mine in every year.
Oh, cool.
And then it's nice and sharp, and the only problem is that you need to spend the money on a decent drill. I mean, and it has to be a brushless drill. If you have brushes in your drill, it will burn them. And I've burnt out. Before I figured that out, I have burned out a couple of drills, which is that's expensive. But usually I can go through. I have a Ryobi, so it's not the best drill, but it works just fine, and it's the bigger version and the brushless.
Right.
And I usually use couple 5-amp lithium batteries, and they last pretty much the whole day for me.
Oh, cool.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Gas augers, they'll weigh minimum 37, 38 pounds, and they can get as gawky and heavy as 50.
Oh, geez.
So trying to pull that through the snow, through terrain,
Yeah.
it's very difficult.
Yeah, and especially if you're pulling one of those clamshell
Yeah.
sleds behind you or whatever, too. You talked about a little bit about the bait. Can you tell people because the bait's quite different for ice fishing, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of split for ice fishing. For open water, I'm a straight plastics guy.
Oh, yeah?
Completely 100% because I'm a tournament angler. We fish around the country for that.
Right.
But for ice fishing, I'm kind of 50-50 split. So sometimes you'll like just a little. I use anywhere from a 3mm tungsten jig up to a little. I mean, an 1/8 ounce is probably as big as I go for panfish. And I prefer tungsten because the jig will always be smaller than lead. It'll have a smaller profile, and it will still sink just as fast, or if not faster. And you'll have better feel with it.
Okay.
But so I don't know, 50% of the time they'll like a little plastic on there, just I don't know, something simple with a little tail. Right. Or I use a lot of waxies or red spikes as well.
Okay,
so
sure.
I don't really have a preference. It's just I kind of let the fish tell me what they want. Sometimes I do one of each too, have a plastic and a little spike on it. Works. So yeah.
What do you use for bait there, Cale?
I try to keep it as simple as I can. Early in the year, your first month of ice, I try to get away with as big of a bait as I can.
Okay.
You're going to be around really aggressive fish early in the year because those fish are fresh, haven't seen much. And if you're around a school of fish, it's easy with a bigger bait to get it down right in front of their face quick. Okay. They can see it from a distance. Right. And when they're that aggressive, bigger baits just tend to work. You get into January, February, which a lot of anglers refer to as the midwinter blues. You're going to downsize because those fish, their metabolism is at a season low. So they're not going to... They're not looking for the biggest meal. They're just kind of putzing along. Yeah. So typically the smallest flies, the smallest tungsten jigs you can get away with. Live bait tends to work a little better than plastic in the dead of winter. Okay. But we're entering that time of year again where I'm going to reverse the role. Those fish are going to start to fatten up because their spawn is coming, especially perch. They spawn earlier than any panfish.
Right.
And so you're going to catch those with some big guts on them. So I like to use, again, really big baits, fire those fish up. They're more aggressive. They want a big meal because they're getting ready for that spawning season. So
right, and that happens around April
for
or
perch.
March?
It can start as early as the end of March.
Okay.
It happens pretty quick. So
wow.
Basically, as soon as the first ice opens up, that's when they spawn.
Okay. Nice. How about, you guys mentioned that you fish a lot of tournaments and stuff too. Have you guys been doing that this winter? Do you have tournaments going? Or?
Well, we are going down to Alabama on Smith Lake coming up in April.
Okay, cool.
But we usually do a lot more, but due to COVID reasons, we've had a travel ban on our school and can't go to these tournaments.
Right.
And they've been canceled and stuff. So it's usually we go to about 2 to 3 of them, anywhere between Missouri, Kentucky, Alabama. We actually, me and my partner Chase Pomeroy, we made the FLW National College Championship last February.
Oh, cool!
And we got to go down in February and fish the Harris Chain down in Florida.
Oh, wow.
We ended up so that was we had 1 day of practice only, and then it was a two or a 3 day tournament depending on if you made the cut. We only fished 2 days because we didn't make the top 10 cut to fish the third day, but we still took I believe 56th out of like 160 teams.
Oh, wow.
So
nice.
For our first time fishing in Florida, it was pretty fun. But that's a big part of what our club does is go around fish new water, fish these tournaments against these big schools, because down south fishing is a huge sport. And so there's actually if you look at Bethel University, they are a 36-man fully scholarshiped team.
Wow.
So I personally did get offered a scholarship to there, but I declined it because I didn't like any of their majors there. It's I don't know. I really like math, so I didn't. And the only math related thing I could have done there was math teaching, I think. But anyways, so down south, fishing teams are huge and they're very competitive, and so we up here in the north we have little teams, but we still compete against those big guys down there, and it's fun. We learn a lot.
Nice. What kind of fish are you catching down in Florida?
So we're strictly bass. So we do bass tournaments all around. So either largemouth or smallmouth up here, and then down there it was basically all largemouth. There are a few spotted bass on the lake too, but we could have caught those. But usually the big 3 are largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. Okay. So those are the ones you can weigh in.
So I know this is a little off topic from ice fishing, but how is the bass fishing down there compared to up here? Like, compare the two for me.
Everything happens a lot earlier.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay, that's about it.
Obviously the baits are going to be a little different. The bass down there, since they grow all year round, their mouths are going to be bigger than the mouths up here for largemouth. So you use bigger baits, obviously. I mean, everyone knows when you go to Florida or Texas, you throw a big 10, 12-inch worm.
Okay.
And so the baits are going to be bigger. The shad are going to be bigger. Pretty much everything's bigger down there. But so we have a lot of 3-pounders here that we would consider that a good tournament fish. So for a tournament, we usually want to catch 5 3-pounder or 4 3-pounders plus a kicker, which is like a 4 or 5.
Okay.
Now down there, they want to catch 4 or 5-pounders and have a kicker of a 7 or 8-pounder.
Oh,
so
wow.
The size is just bigger, but it's kind of the same tactics you use.
Okay.
So.
I was just curious, Yeah. Where do you guys get the boats? Do you provide your own boats, or how does that work?
We have members who own their own boats, whether it be a parent's boat or we outright own our own boat.
Right.
We don't have the funding for this club to, have a school boat and send teams. There are some pretty sick college teams that have some really nice wrapped, decked out boats that'll own 3 or 4 of the newest bass boats.
Oh, jeez.
But I don't think that gives them any more of an advantage.
No.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
For sure.
Our tournament formats, just for some clarification, they're our 5 biggest bass in every tournament. So you're fishing for basically 5 bites. You want your 5 most quality fish in the live well for the weigh-in, best weight.
Okay.
Usually last 8 hours as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So 8-hour tournaments.
Cool. Very cool. I'd like to go back a little bit. You talked about the what do you call it? Like ice picks, for safety. Well, what else? What other kind of things should people worry about, or not worry, but think about when they're going out on the ice as far as safety goes?
Judging the conditions, being aware of your surroundings and the weather.
Right.
Weather plays a big factor. Right now, we have 40, 45 degree days. So if you're fishing a body of water that has current, there's current flowing below you, that ice can be eaten away in a matter of hours.
Oh, wow.
People can become stranded pretty quickly if you're not really careful. Lakes, I don't worry about that as much. Takes a lot longer for that ice to deteriorate. But when you have a little bit of current eating the bottom and the sun eating the top, it can go in a hurry.
Okay.
So that and just watching, slushy water on top is always something to take a little caution to.
Okay.
You get early in the year, if you have snow over the ice, you have to be very careful. That's where I personally made my mistake.
Okay.
Walking out on an area, part of it's, freshly frozen, fresh glazed ice, which that's really good. That's what you want.
Okay.
I was checking that. That appeared to be safe. There was some snow that had been blown over portions of the ice, and that snow is going to insulate the ice. It's going to warm it.
Oh.
And that's where I made my mistake. I had just dumbly assumed that everything I was walking on was the same.
Right.
I got over this snow patch. I felt it sink a little bit, and I took another step and I plummeted through.
Wow.
So, but I was with somebody else with a rope, and I had my ice picks to help me.
Right.
I talked earlier about some clothing. There's so many clothing options out there. The day after I fell through, I went out and invested in a float suit. They have your bibs and your jacket with foam padding now.
Nice.
So that's, if you were to fall through, that's another life-saving
help you
piece of clothing that you can invest in. It's going to help you stay afloat, head above the water until hopefully somebody can help you.
Right.
Again, hopefully nobody's ever in that situation. But I also do have that because I'm out there so much. So,
and we don't need to get way into it, but I mean, there are things to consider and techniques to get yourself back up on the ice too, right? If you fall in,
always kicking your feet. You don't want your head to go under.
Right.
If your head goes under with all the clothing that you're wearing, you're oftentimes wearing pack boots.
Yeah.
You're probably not coming out.
Yeah.
And the chances of you being able to touch the bottom, like, you don't know the depth of the water sometimes that you're walking over. I knew that if my head went under, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Right.
Which is very scary, but I felt my bibs getting heavy. My boots were filling up.
Yeah.
And you just kind of sink like a rock at that point.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself in that position, getting your hands out as quickly as you can, I was able to catch myself.
Okay, nice.
And I mean, that's just split-second reaction that I'm, very lucky.
Right.
But yeah, then getting those picks and continuing to just pull and pull. Yep.
Cool. How about I'm always worried about slipping and falling. What about cleats or
that's
stuff like
a
that?
very important one. I feel like I've slipped and fell. I've had shoulder surgery and knee surgery from sports, not fishing. But I mean, I still don't want to have surgery from fishing.
Right.
So there's a lot of different brands and types of cleats out there. If you just go to Fleet Farm, they have a whole wall of them usually.
Okay. Right.
And I prefer not going cheap on these ones because I buy the $40. I don't know what brand they are, but they're called the diamond version of them.
Okay.
And they're just little diamond spikes all around it, and you look on the back of the box and you can see what shoe size and what size you need, and it's pretty easy.
Okay.
All you do is slip those suckers on, and usually they'll stay on. I have had where if you walk in with them in the snow, which you usually wouldn't need them in the snow anyways, so you can lose them. The snow will actually pull your cleat off, and then you can lose it, and you have to go buy a new one. But that's the only problem I've had with them.
Right.
So, otherwise,
and they all just slip right over your boot.
They all just slip on.
Yeah. I've seen those kind where there's like a wire wrapped around it that's on the bottom of your boot.
Yeah,
right?
I haven't used those personally, so I don't know how well those work.
Interesting.
But
all right, well, just something to think about because I've got some old injuries too, and I just don't want to fall on the ice. But do you guys have like fundraisers or anything like that? What else do you guys do with the club?
Well, we usually try to have at least one ice fishing tournament fundraiser and an open water tournament fundraiser a year.
Cool. So you guys host a tournament?
So we
here?
usually host those, yes.
Okay.
But due to the COVID restrictions, we can't this year because we don't want to get the public sick or anything.
Right.
So we
would those normally be open to the public, or is it just
Yep, it's open to the public. We also have our own personal clubs tournaments that we fish.
Okay.
But those are closed to the public.
Right.
But we usually try to do a fundraiser for that.
Cool.
And then we also there's a what is it called? Go Warriors for what do we do for the football games? I don't know. I forgot what they called. I forgot what they called. Winona State hosts something. I forgot what it's called.
Is that game day experience?
Oh, game day experience. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So they host the game day experience, and they allow clubs to go and like kind of gain publicity.
Oh, nice.
And we host a booth there. Last year we hosted a booth every single day or every single time there, and then they also enter us into like a drawing for some money too.
Okay,
but you can do a fundraiser through that too, and we
Okay.
usually sell like candy or something.
All right.
But also we will go set up a booth at like the big tournaments. Like MLF is a pro circuit series right now that is Major League Fishing. And they are coming here in La Crosse this August for their Red Crest event, which if anyone knows bass fishing, it's like basically the Super Bowl of their pro circuit.
Cool.
So all the big pros are going to be there, and I'm going to try to get us to have a booth there. They did it 2 years ago, and we had a booth there as well. So
Excellent.
We do fundraising like that as well.
Very nice, very nice. And I hope we can maybe next year or later this year or something you can have a tournament or something, a fundraiser.
Absolutely.
You know? We need to get some people going to your fundraisers so we can get you guys a boat.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
It would probably take a few fundraisers.
Yeah, fishing is very expensive, and boats are not cheap.
Right, yeah. Well, I hear you. So how about if anyone wants to learn more about the fishing club, whether they're a student here or just interested in what you guys do, where would they find out? Do you have anything
They can
online?
find out on our Facebook page at Winona State University Fishing. We try to keep that updated. We don't do the greatest at it, honestly, but we also have an Instagram that is WSU Fishing Club.
Okay, nice.
And you can follow us on either of those, or you can just contact myself, and it will be at my email is colton.haney at go.winona.edu.
Okay, sounds good. And I contacted you guys through the Facebook page, so it's not like you guys ignore it.
No, we message everybody back. We just don't.
Sometimes it takes
we
a
don't
while.
post on it as often as we should. We will answer any questions or anything you guys have.
Excellent.
Pretty much as soon as possible.
Quick shout out to the sponsors.
Yeah. You can do that.
Our sponsors really help this club go around. It helps us put more fish in the boat.
Right.
Dobbins Rods, best rods you can imagine.
Yeah.
Big shout out to them. Get Bit Baits, great plastics for big bass. Costa Sunglasses, Costa Fishing.
TNT Tackle is another one. They're a local company in La Crosse who makes jigs and hooks and stuff like that.
TNT, huh?
Yep,
Yeah.
TNT.
Okay.
And then, so it's like T and T, not T. It's hard to say that.
Right, yeah.
Another big one is actually here locally is Kick-Ass Beef Jerky. And they provide product for us, and it's so helpful when you're out in the boat for long periods of times when you need a quick snack.
Right.
And their jerky is some of the best jerky I've actually had, honestly. So
nice.
And another real big one is Lure Lock tackle boxes. Another fairly local company right on the other side of the river here.
Okay.
They have really awesome storage containers. There's like a small sticky adhesive on the bottom of their containers.
Yeah.
You can put your baits in there, rattle that box, and that bait does not come free.
Nice.
So it keeps your stuff organized. Right. And as a tournament angler, organization is key.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lure Lock.
Excellent. Well, that's good to know that there's some local sponsors like that, too. That's fantastic. Well, great, guys. I've been here talking to Colton Haney. He's the president of the Winona State University Fishing Club. And also with us is Cale Rinn, very knowledgeable student here that grew up right here in the area. You guys, thank you so much for coming in today. This was great.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was really fun.
Yeah. So Like I said earlier, I am not big into ice fishing, or wasn't, but I'm recently started to pick up some gear, and I'm going to venture out there and see what I can do. So
Sweet.
Thanks a lot for all the info, guys.
No problem.
Thanks again to Colton Haney and Cale Rinn from the Winona State University Fishing Club. To find out more about the club, or just to learn more about ice fishing or fishing in general, contact the Winona State University Fishing Club on Facebook. To keep up on all things Winona and the surrounding area, tune in to Culture Clique Thursdays at 12:30 right here on 89.5 KQAL. I'm Bill Stoneberg, and we've been talking Minnesota and ice fishing. Today on Culture Clique.
Creating cultural awareness and understanding. You've been listening to Culture Clique. Support for Culture Clique is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Culture Clique is produced by KQAL-FM on the campus of Winona State University. For more information, look us up on the web at kqal.org. And thanks for listening to Culture Clique.